So you saw me make the front floor pan. That's what the last couple of videos have been about, haven't they? So now we're into the rear, which is actually a lot more technical, a lot more awkward to do, mainly because it goes up over the seat brackets. So to make it in the fashion that I did the front, where we can sort of pop it down into it, it won't work because these brackets are in the way, which we'll have a look at in a minute. But yeah, so that's it. That's it roughly cut out. That's the one that come out of it. It's all, you know, as I say, all floppy old fiberglass thing. That's what they're like. And we're talking about Uncle Giuseppe's brush marks, weren't we? How he's, you know, how you can see the brush marks from that old tarry stuff. We'll cut a picture in of him. So yeah, so that's that. So that's that lot. But what we had on the front, we had those swage lines I put in, didn't I? Well, this one hasn't got them. They should be going the length of the car in the other direction, this way. But there's none on this. Now, I was expecting there to be some. So if I grab these ones, remember that silver car we did all that work on? These are the ones that come off that. So what this is two pans all together, and then what's left of the fronts, I've just kept it all in together and kept hold of it just for the future if I ever need it for reference, which what we're doing is reference. So these definitely have these lines in them here, which is exactly what I did with this, which we looked at before, which was a test piece for one of the rear floor pans, which is the opposite number to that one. But the other thing you see here is this angle I've got here. And this one hasn't got that at all, has it? Look, that's not got that angle, that sort of gentle fold down. It's a straight 90, goes down like that and then joins onto the floor there. So it is a different treatment to that other car, the silver car. And you can see that's that shape there. So putting those two together, get rid of that one, putting these two together, that shape there is that piece there. And it doesn't have that in it, does it? Because this is this bit here that goes around here. And it's quite different. This has got a slightly more rolled edge to it. This is a lot sharper. And this has got those lines in it. This hasn't. So it's a different treatment. It's a different treatment of the same thing. Fiberglass, but different. Both these cars are 1968. So shows how different they can be, which I think we've discussed before. This car has a dashboard in fiberglass. This car had one in aluminium. So they're covered with sort of vinyl leatherette, so you can't tell what they're made of. If you're in it, it's only if you take it apart, you know, which I know because I've taken it apart. This is where you have the question now. So what do? Do I replicate that in steel? Do I put that in? Well, I'm not going to do that. I've decided not to do that. I'm going for this shape. But I think this shape with the swages. Now, the reason for that is I think it will look nicer, and as we know, some have them, some don't. But certainly the later cars, like the Ghibli, which we can look at that in a minute, that had steel floor pans, and that had swages in them. What I'll do is I'll get a magnet. So that's it. The Spiders, some of the Spiders had steel floor pans. I think all the Spiders did, actually. And I have seen steel floor pans from factory on some of the 3.7 cars. The rear ones on that are steel. So they obviously chop and change and muck around a bit. So I think we've got a bit of interpretation here. We can we can, you know, choose how we want to do it. Obviously, if we were replicating it exactly the same and making these fiberglass floor pans, I would copy it exactly. But there's such a stupid bit of design and so poorly done that everyone gets rid of them. You know, it's a known thing in restoring these Maseratis to go over to steel. These lines are where it's got to fold up through there. Between here and here, it's got to tip up like that, which will give us this shape. Gives us that tip up there, and then of course these will then join together, won't they? Because these will come up, fold up, and then when you fold it that way, these will draw together and join, which will then can be welded and run a weld along there, which would become here and here, and that will then hold our fold in here, that shape. So that's that. These cutouts are for these seat brackets which I was talking about, which we'll have a look at. And that's why it becomes difficult, because I can't pop the floor pan down into it because these brackets stick out. I'm going to have to put it up under. But because I want these flanges to go over here where it rests, I think I'm going to have to fold them in situ in the car, which is a bit of an awkward way of doing it. I mean, I could do it without these returns on it and just sort of weld it along the edge like that, but I don't want to do that. I don't think that'll be as neat. And I've done the front this way, so I want to emulate that with the rear one. So that's the plan. So we've got to do some folds, and we've got to put swages in, and I've got to mark out where they go. But before we mark out where they go, let's have a look at this actually in situ, and we can see what we're actually working on. Right, so here's our void, where our rear floor pan goes. These are our seat belt brackets, or seat mount brackets. So you've got your bolts on here, so there into the chassis, and then these ears off of the chassis, and then this one on the inner sill here. So, as I said, I can't, having a lip here, I can't drop it down over those. It's got to come up from underneath this floor pan. So I think, what I've got to do, this one was fiberglass, so we were able to sort of move it around. Obviously, when we put it in, we were able to sort of, I can't even remember how we did it now. But, you could sort of flex it around. We sort of had to bash it out of there anyway. And then, so I've copied that. I've made a cardboard template. Effectively, what we've got to do is pop it up from underneath. Like this. This is give us an idea of what we're sort of trying to deal with. So that sort of has to go up in like that. Obviously, I can't do this with steel. It's not going to be quite as malleable as this. But yeah, I'm just, this was just sort of rough out to get our ideas of what we're trying to do and how it's going to fit. And what you'll see is I haven't done this piece here. And the reason for that is it actually, although this goes like that, the actual pan goes through a slight arc. And I'd like to, emulate that arc, put that in there, because then the carpet will follow that shape, if you see what I mean. This void was obviously all full up with the old tar stuff. I would be Seppi put a load of tar up in there. But, we can do that. That'll be fabricated separately, that piece, which will make it a bit easier for fitting. But you can imagine we're going to have a bit of a struggle fitting this up in situ, because it's got to tuck up from underneath. So this plane here has got to be tucked up first, and I've got to try and push that bit up. Whereas as you saw with this one, it just went straight in from above, nice and easy. But yeah, these are the problem. But luckily, when we get to the other side, we're not so bad. You see that one's only got one bracket there. You've got one seat mount there, one over on that chassis, and then just one bracket. So that one's going to be a lot easier to do, because we've only got the one that we've got to worry about. And it does beg the question, should we cut the seat bracket off, pop these in, and then weld them on after, weld that one back on again? But this side, I don't want to do that. That's not how I want to do it at all. But I might consider it on that side. But, that's a different side, isn't it? So that's that. That's what we've got to do. So I think what we'll do is we'll put some folds in that pan. So we're taking this as our pattern, aren't we? Because these will fold that way, won't they, to do what we need to do, which means this is where our swages would go on the other side. So we want to mark them that side. That's it. That's what we want to do. So we want to mark them that way on there. Now looking at these lines are parallel. On the chassis, that's parallel and that's parallel. We want to go off of there, don't we, to make it look straight and square. Let's double check on the car what we want to do. So that's the inside by the transmission tunnel, and that's the outside by the sill. So I guess what we should do is check that one there, between there, and see how square that is. So yeah, that's pretty square to that. So that's a 90 to that. So let's use that as our datum and then move them across. So we want 3 of them, don't we? So we've got 1, 2, 3. So we can go off of that edge. We'll use this as, again, we can go off this edge to mark them. 10 centimetres to that one, 10 to that one, and 10 to that one, and that leaves us over there. So if we go off of there, that's fine, that's quite easy then, isn't it? So we go off of there at 10 centimetres, go off there at 10, and go off here at 10. Yeah, I didn't need to move the ruler, did I? I could have gone 10, 20, 30. There you go. So we've marked them across like that. Let's mark them up here. So there you go, at 10, at 20, and at 30. There we are. So we want to work out how far they go towards the end. So at this edge, it's been cut off. We can't see how far they go, but they're going to sit back from there a bit, aren't they? A suitable amount. So I reckon we could, you know, something like that, isn't it? It's going to be a bit enough, isn't it? So if we used a sort of datum like that, so we say we're not going to go beyond there with our swages, beyond that line, and then we're going to do something up the same this end, aren't we? We don't want them to go any further than that. So we'll give us that as our datum for where we go up to. And then that would be the same, because this one's going to come up to this edge, isn't it, here? So we'll do the same, we'll give ourselves a mark like that, so we don't want to go any further up than that. Because obviously that one's going to hit that edge, that corner otherwise. So we're going off that datum there, and we're going up to there, aren't we? So that's going to be one swage line. To there, so we go off of there, and to there, like that. That's it, so that's what they're going to look like. I reckon they'll look all right, won't they? We've got to actually make these swages, and we'll go over to the swaging machine over here, and we'll use that one, the powered one. Now this is a great bit of kit, but obviously you've got to be careful using it. Mind your fingers. I'll put the guard on in a minute, but I'll leave that off so you can see how it works. And then this runs on this little foot pedal here. Is what turns it on and off. Like that. Obviously that's going to put that shape, push it into there. So we're going to end up with a swage on the underneath of our floor pan if we're going to push it in from above. And then this adjusts via this one, you see, like that. So that's, you know, by the amount of pressure we put on there will alter the amount of swage we do. Well, obviously that's no pressure, and obviously that's loads of pressure. Now, what you've got is these are your datums, so they alter the amount you're going to push it down. So when that bottom's there, that bottom's out, you can see there's a bit of air gap there. Should be, yeah. So there we go, you can see. So that's a good setting, because that's what I did the front floor pans at. So what I can do is I'll get a bit of scrap metal in there, and we'll run it through. So what we're bearing in mind is that we are going to start like that. We're not starting off the panel, we're starting in the panel like this, you see, because they've got to start inboard. So we've got to set that in the right place for where we're going to start them. And then we've got to wind it down like that. And then that will put that first sort of bit of shape into it. So you see it's put a little divot in it. So it's like a sort of start there, you see. I've got to use the pimple what's there to line that up. Otherwise I'm going to lose it. And it won't work properly. Let's just do that. For the purposes of what I'm doing, we'll do that. That's it. You can see it's as simple as that. So it puts that shape into it. There, we're done. Now, obviously, if I'm stood over here, I can't control it properly. So that's what we're trying to do, but on that big floor pan. This comes to the question, do we put the fold in the floor pan first, or the fold in the floor pan first, I think. Otherwise, when we come to fold it, we're going to end up with these flattening, aren't we? So I think that's the first thing, is to put that fold in, and then we'll come back and put the swages in it. So what we want to do, we want to put that fold in it there, across there. We want to put that one in so it goes from that point to that point. We're folding this up, and we're putting our swages down through here. So we're pushing down so that we end up with the indentations going down, so we end up with rows underneath the car. Right, let's go and do that. Too late once you put them around the wrong way. Isn't it? So we can use this little folder, this will be fine for this. So I'm only just literally starting it like that. I'm not going to do more than that. But it doesn't need much of a folder anyway. But I can pull that up further when we need to. So that's all I'm doing, is just that little bit. What we've got to look at is where we want to put them. So we want to put that one in there. And we want to put that one in there. But we can't get to that, can we? So let's try it around the other way and see if we can get it. So we can get that one, all right. And can we get that in enough to that one? We can get to that one there. But what we've got to look at is this sticks out a bit wider there, doesn't it? So will that go through? Yeah, it will. It will just go through, won't it? But what we do have to be careful of is if we've got all these folds on it, all these bits sticking out, we've got to be careful they don't catch on here as we go, because that is one of the pitfalls of doing this. It can be a difficult thing, and it messes them up a bit if that happens, because it'll put a sort of kink in it. I don't know what kinky swages are, but aim for a band, isn't it? The kinky swages. Or the wages of kink. Like when you're in a restaurant, isn't it? You've got a wobbly table. I think we should sort that out. Because if that's wobbling around, that's another thing that's going to upset us, isn't it? It's not going to, it sits better on the floor. That's a bit better, isn't it? Now what would be great is to have a backstop on this. So you could have an edge that you're working to. Which is fine if you've got a parallel edge. So, which then begs the question, should I have put the swages in before I put all this shape in it? Perhaps I should have started off with it marked out with a straight edge, and then I could use the guide as like the back marker to sort of work to. So rather than trying to do them freehand. But anyway, I didn't do it that way, and I could live to regret it, couldn't I? But then even when you're using them back markers, they're a pain, to be honest, because they sometimes drive off of them. What I need is a lot slower one of these, I think. It's a lot more controllable. But anyway, I haven't got a slower one. Perhaps that's why Uncle Giuseppe used so much tar on them, wasn't it? To get rid of the wonky swages. Or kinky swages, wasn't it? That's our little saying of this video, isn't it? Kinky swages. Right, let's try this. Right, there you go. So, all that stopping and starting isn't good, because it doesn't like it. That's when it tends to sort of kick a bit. That's not too bad. I reckon that's straight enough. I'd like it a bit better than that. I think we got a bit of a wobble in that one, haven't we? It don't look too bad. What do you reckon? Kinky or not? I don't think it's too bad. Right, okay, so the next one we're saying we've got to get into here, haven't we? We've got to do that one, and then we can flip it round and do this one. So let's get this in there. Right. Okay. Are you ready? Have another go. Yeah, not too bad. Yeah, that's passable, isn't it? Right, so now we're on to this one. Okay, that's it. That went off a bit there. Not so happy with that one. Anyway, that's as good as we're going to get. So use a bit of Uncle Giuseppe's tar. We'll mask that a bit with that, won't we? But yeah, it goes off a little there at the end. What happened? It twisted a bit when I started. That's the trouble. But I reckon we'll get away with that. Yep. You know, it's not like some sort of polished alley interior, is it? On some hot rod or custom car. I don't think anyone will really notice it. And there, how many people are going to be underneath it anyway, aren't they? So, anyway. I think the Kinky Swages would be a good support band for Lou Reed, wouldn't they, in the Velvet Underground? So yeah, that gives us our, you know, where we're going to fold it up and see what we've got there. That's what we're dealing with, so that's enough fold on it. Now what we've got to do is get these lines folded in, haven't we? We're going to fold these in on the folder. That one's fairly easy, but that one's going to fold this at the same time, isn't it, if we've put that in the folder? But we can straighten that out afterwards, which is what you have to do sometimes. It's better to have a nice fold there and then unfold that. So these have got to come up to a 90, haven't they? So it's going to mess that front edge up a bit, but I'll sort that out with Hammer and Dolly. Right, so that's that one. And we've got to do that one. And then obviously these should meet, and then that should give us our angle. But anyway, we'll do that in a minute. So yeah, it's messed that up a bit, because that was just, this is over 90, and the reason for that is, you'll see when I get to it, because these sort of, the edges aren't quite at 90, they're a bit splayed out, which sort of emulates the fiberglass one. I think that's so that they could fit it up in there properly. So I'm obviously emulating the same thing. So it's not, you know, the box is not fully sort of at 90 degree, every fold up on it is not at 90. Now obviously we looked at some of these other methods of folding things, but that's sort of, you know, with them hairpin things and stuff like that. If you haven't seen that, you're going to have to go and look at some of the other videos to see that. You can't really do that with these, you know, you need a proper folder with this. So you can do it manually, but it's very, very long-winded. You know, if you want to do this sort of stuff, you need some sort of folder. But you can pick up folders, you know, quite cheap, or you can even sort of fabricate one yourself if you know. But to be honest, you know, this stuff does turn up. You know, you don't have to have everything, but it's one of the things that's very difficult without. Right, that's that bit. Now I've got to straighten these out before we fold these other ones. But before that, I've got to do, this one's got to go over that way, hasn't it, as well? Is it that one or is it this one? No, it's this one. That one's got to fold down before I get too involved in welding this together, isn't it, I think? Let's have a look. Let's have a look on the bench, see what we've got. So we want to straighten that out, don't we? That one's got to come over, hasn't it? Got to get that back over, because that's got to then meet up with that one, doesn't it? So let's let's straighten that out quickly. Right, so we've got, that's got to join there like that, hasn't it? That's the idea. That one joins there, joined together perfectly there, but it's not quite, it's a bit tight down the bottom there. I'm just going to clamp them up and check that we've got about what we're looking for. And then I might have to ease it a bit to give us a bit more room to get a weld in there. Right. So if that joins about there, yeah, what we're after is the same sort of height on it, aren't we? So yeah, I think that's going to give us our angle that we want. Okay. I reckon there's a part 2 in this. I want to go home. So yeah, we're going to come back to this. A lot of this stuff we actually do live. You know, we actually do it and film it happening, which is why it's sometimes a little bit, you know, difficult to get everything just right straight away. And there's nowhere to hide. Hence, as I say, that line going off a bit.